Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to be reading our second source for unit number 1 on fear. Remember specifically the question that we will be answering, or the questions. You get to choose which one you want to answer for our essay question at the end of this unit is how does fear negatively affect people or cause them negative reactions? Or how does fear cause people to do dumb or stupid things? And why? How and why? Does it cause people negativity or to cause them to do dumb or stupid things? Now, let's talk about this story. It's called House Taken Over by Julio Cortázar. A couple things I want to say. One, it's not as long as Pit and the Pendulum, so we're going to be reading it in two different chunks. Each one should take about 10 or 15 minutes, maybe even less. This first one will take a little bit longer because I'm introducing it and talking about what we have to do. The second one should be very quickly, about 10 minutes. We're going to do the same exact assignment for House Taken Over that we did for the Pit and the Pendulum, and that is, and allow me to show you right now, that is to do annotations. So what you're going to do is a minimum of 4 annotations per reading, and here's our annotation page. I already have it all set up for you. On the left, you have our quote. I even put the quote starter in there for you. It says, consider the following quote. You're just going to put in any quotes that have to do with fear. And then you're going to annotate each quote. I already put the beginning, the annotation starter, where it says this quote clearly shows, and you're going to say this quote clearly shows, blah, blah, blah. You know, a character acting stupid because they're afraid, or fear affecting somebody negatively. Should be quite simple. Okay, let's go back to looking at me for a minute. Let's stop that. Good. Let's go back to my lovely mug. Pardon me, I haven't gotten a haircut in 4 months. It's coronavirus. Let's talk about this story. Firstly, you don't have to like this story. You don't have to hate this story. All you have to do is read it and understand it. Okay, that's the most important thing. I'm going to tell you right now that I don't dislike this story and I don't love this story. Would I have chosen this story as an example of characters being afraid or being stupid because they're afraid? I probably wouldn't. There's a lot of other stories out there that I would have chosen, but somebody did. My perspective, textbook people decided that this was a good story. But again, I'm going to go back to, you don't have to like it. You just have to read it and you have to pull out a couple of examples. Now, for each reading, I'm going to look for 4 annotations, right, about fear. But when it comes time to writing your essay in 2 months, you're only going to pull 1, possibly 2, but really only 1 quote from this entire story. So you'll be picking the best quote about fear for your essay. So right now, don't worry about how great the notes are, how great the quotes are. Just get 4 for each day's reading. And then at the end, we'll pick the best one for the essay. Also, I want to point out, if for some reason you don't find 4 quotes about fear in today's 2 pages of reading, then just give a couple of notes about anything else, even as simple as put a quote down and say, I don't understand what this means. That's an annotation. Or this might have to do with fear, but I'm not quite sure. You just need 4 notes for today's assignment. Everybody cool? Fabulous. So let's read this story. I'm going to start it off. House Taken Over by Julio Cortázar. Let's read the background. It's given to us, so it might be important. In 1946, when this story was written, Julio Cortázar lived in Buenos Aires, Argentina. World War II had only recently ended, and Argentina was in a state of political turmoil. Young people, including Cortázar, were critical of a conservative element in the government that had refused to join the Allied cause against Adolf Hitler until late in the war, by which time communication with Europe had all but stopped. The young author left Buenos Aires 5 years after writing the story in protest against the policies of Juan Perón, who was increasingly dominating Argentinian politics. Okay, so that was just a little note about the author. I don't think that has anything to do with this story, considering this is a haunted house story. So let's read it. Let's see what we're doing. Now, again, you're going to be looking for notes about fear, either causing people to do negative, stupid or dumb things, or just affecting them negatively, making them afraid or shake or scared or lonely, whatever. We're going to look for those and we're going to write them down. Everybody with me? Let's go. Okay. We liked the house because apart from it being old and spacious in a day when old houses go down for a profitable auction of their construction materials, it kept the memories of great grandparents, our paternal grandfather, our parents, and the whole of childhood. All right, I'm starting off with my first note. Just that last sentence. It kept the memories of great-grandparents, our paternal grandfather, our parents, and the whole of childhood. I'm sorry, and I have that underlined, as you can see right there. I underline it, and I also have my little annotation. And for me, the note is, houses keep memories? I didn't think they did. I thought it was only people, possibly animals, that keep memories. But houses don't keep memories. Houses don't do anything. All right, they're not alive. They're not a person. So just the idea already that it starts off by saying the house keeps these memories, that weirds me out a little bit, because houses aren't alive. So right off the bat, I'm thinking, wait a minute, whoa, what's going on with this house? This house is actually alive. So I'm going to put that in. Now, that may or may not be a fear note, but it certainly opens up the idea that there's something wrong with this house. So I'm going to write this down. Consider the following quote. It kept the memories of great-grandparents our paternal grandfather, showing you guys how to do annotation. If you already know this, you can just skip right past this and go back to the reading, but I'm typing this in so everybody sees how I would do this. Our parents, and the whole of childhood. Now, let's do an annotation for this. First, let's finish our quote. Close quotes. Notice I don't put a period after that. And remember, I have three choices. I can either cite the page number, the title of the source, or the web address I took it from. Now, in this case, I took it from the book, right, that we're reading. So I can just do a page number. So I'll put parentheses, 37. That's where this comes from. And then my period goes after that. That's how I do a perfect annotation. Take a look. Consider the following quote. Now, notice I want to start one thing. This sentence doesn't start with it, so I'm going to put the ellipsis before it, the dot, 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 period, period, period. And that shows me that's not the beginning of the sentence. So consider the following quotes. Dot, dot, dot. It kept the memories of great-grandparents, comma, our paternal grandfather, comma, our parents, and the whole of childhood. Okay, this quote clearly shows something is weird about this house. How can a house keep memories? It is not alive. Excellent. So there's my quote and there's my annotation. Let's go back to our story. All right, I'm going to stop presenting this. Let's go back to the story, and then you can see me reading this if you'd like. Okay, let's continue. Okay. Irene and I got used to staying in the house by ourselves, which was crazy. 8 people could have lived in that place and not have gotten in each other's way. We rose at 7 in the morning and got the cleaning done. And about 11, I left Irene to finish off whatever rooms, and I went to the kitchen. We lunched at noon precisely. Then there was nothing left to do but a few dirty plates. It was pleasant to take lunch and commune with the great, hollow, silent house, and it was enough for us just to keep it clean. We ended up thinking at times that that was what had kept us from marrying. Stop. How can a house stop you from marrying? That doesn't make any sense. I'm going back and I'm making a note because that just doesn't make any sense to me. So let's go back to our notes. And that's going to be, this is evident in the following quote. Let's put our quotation marks and say, we ended up thinking at times that was what had kept us from marrying. That was what had kept us from marrying. Now, again, I don't put a period there. No. I put my quotation mark to show it's the end of the quote. Then I put my parentheses, and then I can put either the page number, the title of the source, or the web address I took this from. I didn't take this from the web. So let's put the page number again, because I think that's the easiest. This comes from page 38. Right? And then my period goes after those parentheses. And what does this quote clearly show? I made the note, so it must show something. This quote clearly shows there is something wrong with this house. How can a house stop someone from getting married? I'm going to ask a question this time. Is it alive? Is it against them? Good. So take a look at my quote. This is evident in the following quote. We ended up thinking at times that that was what had kept us from marrying. And then my annotation. This quote clearly shows there's something wrong with this house. How can a house stop someone from getting married? Is it alive? Is it against them? Let's just stay on this page so I can get ready for my next note, and let's keep reading. Irene turned down 2 suitors for no particular reason, and Maria Esther went and died on me before we could manage to get engaged. We were easing, wait a minute, so they were going to, the author, the man who's writing this says he was engaged at one point, but the woman died before they could get married. How could the house have done that? Is he insinuating that the house caused that woman to die so he wouldn't marry her and either bring her into the house so it doesn't want other people inside it, or it didn't want him to leave? Now I'm starting to get a little weirded out. That could be a great note, by the way, that and died on me before we managed to get engaged. You can put that down as a quote and a note. And just like what I just said, how could a house stop that from happening? Let's continue. We were easing into our 40s with the unvoiced concept that the quiet, simple marriage of sister and brother was the indispensable end to a line established in the house by our grandparents. I just want to point out, he says the quiet and simple marriage of a brother and sister. He doesn't mean anything sexual about that. He just means the fact that the house almost wanted just the brother and sister to live there. It didn't want any strangers. Let's continue. We would die here someday. Obscure and distant cousins would inherit the place and have it torn down, sell the bricks, and get rich in the building plot. Or more justly and better yet, we would topple it ourselves before it was too late. Stop. That's a crazy note right there. Listen to what he just said. Or more justly and better yet, we would topple it ourselves before it was too late. He just said, if we were smart, before it was too late, we will knock this house to the ground. What does he mean by before it's too late? What is too late? What is the house going to do to them? Let's write that one in. So an excellent example can be seen in the following quote. Or more justly and better yet. So let's put our quotes. Now remember, we're starting or more justly. That's not a new sentence. That's in the middle of the sentence. So let's do our ... and let's type our quote. Or more justly and better yet, we would topple it ourselves. We would topple it ourselves before it was too late. Oh, sorry. Good. Now, no period there, even though it's the end of the quote. It's not the end of this sentence. So I'm going to put my quote. Then why don't we put the title of the story this time, just for fun, so you can see the difference. And this would be House Taken Over. So I'd put it in quotation marks because it's a short story. Ooh, let's capitalize it too. House Taken Over. Close the quotation marks, close the parentheses, then put my period. Remember, if I wanted, I could put 38 in there as well. And what does this quote clearly show? Let's look at the quote again. An excellent example of this can be seen in the following quote. Or more justly and better yet, we would topple it ourselves before it was too late. This quote clearly shows the character is afraid of his house. And I'm going to ask a question. What does he mean? Mean before it is too late. Too late. Is the house out to get them? If so, why do they stay? Why are they afraid of it? Good. Everybody with me? Excellent. Let's continue. Irene never bothered anyone. Once the morning housework was finished, she spent the rest of the day on the sofa in her bedroom knitting. I couldn't tell you why she knitted so much. I think women knit when they discover that it's a fat excuse to do nothing at all. But Irene was not like that. She always knitted necessities, sweaters for winter, socks for me, handy morning robes and bed jackets for herself. Sometimes she would do a jacket, then unravel it at the next moment because there was something that didn't please her. It was pleasant to see a pile of tangled wool in her knitting basket fighting a losing battle for a few hours to retain its shape. So we find out that all day, every day, she just knits. And sometimes after she's done knitting something, she breaks it up and knits it again. I'll tell you right now, and you can make your own note if you want, I think she knits so that she doesn't have to think about the house that she's living in. I think she's so afraid of that house, she does anything she can to not think about that. Let's continue. Saturdays, I went downtown to buy wool. Irene had faith in my good taste and was pleased with the colors, and never a skein had to be returned. I took advantage of these trips to make the rounds of the bookstores, uselessly asking if they had anything new in French literature. Nothing worthwhile had arrived in Argentina since 1939. But it's the house I want to talk about, the house and Irene. I'm not very important. Okay, that's an interesting note right there. Why isn't he very important? That's an interesting note. If you want to do that, that's absolutely fine by you. I wonder what Irene would have done without her knitting. One can reread a book, but once a pullover is finished, you can't do it over again. It's some kind of disgrace. One day I found that the drawer at the bottom of the chiffonier, replete with mothballs, was filled with shawls, white, green, lilac. Stacked amid a great smell of camphor, it was like a shop. I didn't have the nerve to ask her what she planned to do with them. We didn't have to earn our living. There was plenty coming in from the farms each month, even piling up. So we just found out, why do these people not work? It says there's plenty coming in from the farms each month. So not only do they own this house, they also own a bunch of farms around it, and they charge rent on those farms. So they're landlords. So they're rich landlords. They didn't earn this stuff. It was handed down to them by their parents and whatnot. So they don't have to work. Let's continue. But Irene was only interested in the knitting and showed a wonderful dexterity. And for me, the hours slipped away watching her, her hands like sea urchins, needles flashing, and one or two knitting baskets on the floor, the balls of yarn jumping about it. It was lovely. Okay, this next paragraph, paragraph number 5, it's the last one we're going to read in today's reading. So let's get it through it, and let's see if we can find at least one more quote. I already have 3, but there was a couple others you could have chosen as well. But let's see what we're going to do for our last one. How not to remember the layout of the house. Wait a minute. How not to remember the layout of the house? What he's saying there is the house is unforgettable, completely unforgettable. That's weird right there. That could be a note. Why is it unforgettable? It's because it's scary. But let's continue. That's for you. If you want to do it, you can do that. How not to remember the layout of the house. The dining room, a living room with tapestries, the library, and 3 large bedrooms in the section most recessed, the one that faced toward Rodriguez Pena. Only a corridor with its massive oak doors separated that part from the front wing, where there was a bath, the kitchen, our bedrooms, and the hall. One entered the house through a vestibule with enameled tiles, and a wrought iron grated door opened onto the living room. You had to come in through the vestibule and open the gate to go into the living room. The doors to our bedrooms were on either side of this, and opposite was the corridor leading to the back section. Going down, so we're learning that this house is broken down into 2 distinct sections. On one section, there's a couple of rooms, the kitchen and their bedrooms. On the other section, which is separated by a big door, is these other rooms. Let's hear about that other section. Okay, one swung corridor into the back section, going down the passage. One swung open the door beyond which was the other part of the house. Or just before the door, one could turn left and go down a narrower passageway which led to the kitchen and the bath. When the door was open, you became aware of the size of the house. When it was closed, you had the impression of an apartment, like the ones they build today, with barely enough room to move around it. So this one door we're finding out separates the house, right? So on one side is a half of the house, and on the other is the other half of the house. Why, though, is he telling us about this door? And why do they keep it closed? Wouldn't you keep that door open and have the house feel a lot bigger? Let's see what they say. Irene and I always lived in this part of the house and hardly ever went beyond the oak door except to do the cleaning. Okay, he just said it. They only stay on one side of the house and they almost never go on the other side of the house. Why? Why would you not use an entire section of your house? Are they afraid of that side of the house? That's the gist that I'm getting right now. So let's get this down. Consider the following quote. Irene, well, let's capitalize Irene, and I always lived in this part of the house. And hardly ever, we're almost done, for today, guys and gals. Great job. Went beyond the oak door. Hardly ever went beyond the oak door except to do the cleaning. Okay, I don't put a period at the end of the quote. Remember, I close my quotation marks. Then in parentheses, I put either the page number, the title of the story, or the website I took it from. Let's go back to page number. It's easier. This is page number 39. Close my parentheses, and there goes my period. This is a really great quote. This might even be the best quote to use for your essay, but let's read the rest of the story. Consider the following quote. Irene and I always lived in this part of the house and hardly ever went beyond the oak door except to do the cleaning. This quote clearly shows they are, now let's say it this way. This quote clearly shows there is something wrong with this house. Period. Why not use a whole section of that? Why not use this whole section of the house? Question mark. Why not use that whole section of the house? I'm going to ask the question. Are they afraid to go into that part of the house? Why? What happened there? Now I'm starting to get all sorts of crazy ideas about what might have happened there. Did somebody die in the house? Are there ghosts over there? Are there monsters over there? Is it just haunted over on that side when they bought it? I don't know. Why? What happened there? And here's another interesting question. Why do they even clean it? Even clean it if they never use it? Go into it. That section of the house. Why would you clean a section of the house that you don't use? That doesn't make any sense to me. Does the house demand that it gets cleaned? Is this house alive? Is this house? I know this is a crazy question. Is this house alive? I'm going to put 2 question marks because, let's go with 4 question marks because I want to show just how freaky this house is. Let's continue. We're almost done. Incredible how much dust collected on the furniture. It may be Buenos Aires is a clean city, but she owes it to her population and nothing else. There's too much dust in the air. The slightest breeze and it's back on the marble console tops and in the diamond patterns of the tooled leather desk set. It's a lot of work to get it off. With a feather duster, the motes rising and hangs in the air and settle again a minute later on the pianos and the furniture. And then he just describes that cleaning it is very difficult because it just keeps getting more and more dusty because Buenos Aires, he says, is a dusty city. So why clean it if it keeps just getting dusty and you're not going to go into it anyway? That makes no sense to me, but I think they know the answer to that. Okay, let's stop presenting this side. Oh, you know what? Let's go back. I want to show you. Actually, let's show you something. Let's go back to this. Let's present it. Let's show you just everything that we've done today. So let's go through this real quick. So as you can see, we're done with today with part 1 of our reading. I have here, and I did it for you, 1, 2, 3. I have 4 quotes. Each one of them, I have a quote starter. Consider the following quote. I have a quote about either the house being weird or the people being afraid, and I annotate each one. I explain each quote. And I started each one by saying this quote clearly shows. Now, we are not done with the story. We will pick it up again tomorrow, and we will read the second half of it, and we will do the exact same thing. We're going to find 4 new quotes dealing with fear, and we're going to annotate each of those quotes tomorrow. Excellent job, everybody. Really fantastic. That's part 1 of House Taken Over. Again, you did not have to like this story or what we have read so far. I'm like in the middle of this. It's like for me, I'm on the fence. I could either do with it or do without it. I kind of like it. I kind of don't like it, whatever. But it is weird. And there is definitely something wrong with this house. We will figure it out tomorrow if the author wants us to know. Great job today, everybody. Thank you very much.